Hey everybody, it's Anna and welcome back to my booktube channel. This is my Geekly Wrap-Up for the board games that I played the week of January 6th through January 12th. I think this is the first time that I've actually had to split a Geekly Wrap-Up into two parts because it's too long and my memory card on my camera was running out of space. So here we go. Let's get into the games that I played. So this week I played most of my games at a local tabletop gaming convention that is called OrcaCon. This is just my badge for the convention, and OrcaCon is great because it is dedicated specifically to providing a diverse and inclusive space for gamers of all ages, races, gender, sexualities, abilities, etc. And this is really a convention that I believe puts their money where their mouth is. It's a nonprofit, entirely volunteer run. It is one of the only conventions, I think it's one of 3 conventions that I've been to that has an explicitly proactive policy on disability and inclusion and has all of their accessibility information readily available on their website in printed materials and actually has volunteers that are properly trained to answer any access questions that you may have. Again, I cannot speak to the I can't speak to what the experience of being a person of color at this convention is like because I am not a person of color. Just from my own observations, though, their panels are way more diverse than most of the panels that I have seen. We don't just pop up a panel of all white queer folk and call it diversity. I've seen that happen before at conventions, and this convention really does put their money where their mouth is as far as I am concerned. Also, I did want to draw some attention to, they do have these little awesome communication buttons. So these are borrowed from the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network conference, and basically it's like red, yellow, and green buttons that you can wear on your shirt or your lanyard or whatever it may be. I have a little green button that has an orca that says, yes, talk to me. And then the yellow button is basically, I'm open to conversations, but I would prefer to just listen or talk to people that I already know. And then the red button is, please don't approach me. I'm happy just talking to the people that I came here with, which might not seem like a big deal, but as somebody who is on the autism spectrum and even as somebody who almost always picks the green button, I love to be able to have that choice and that extra layer of information to communicate. So while I was there, we played a lot of board games. I have 5 games to talk to you about. This is also a huge RPG convention. I didn't get to play any RPGs this weekend because I just got caught up in the board games, but I did get to talk to the good folks at Alexandria RPG, who I will link down below again, and basically they are a traveling RPG library that goes around to a bunch of different cons, and they do a lending library of all kinds of RPGs, and they do really fantastic work, especially as regards to accessibility. They've given out our DOTS RPG Braille dice before. That's the organization that I work with, and it was just really fun to go over to their booth and page through some of the really interesting, old school RPGs that they had. So I'm going to talk about 5 games. 4 of these I played at the convention. The 5th one, Sean and I actually played together after we got home later that night because we wanted to keep the good times going. And some of these will probably look familiar to you if you've been watching my channel for a while. So the first game that we played was On Mars. This is a really heavy box, so I'm not going to hold it up the entire time I'm talking about it. But this I also wrapped up in a very recent Geekly Wrap-Up is a pretty new game for us. It is a really heavy Euro game that is about exploring the surface of Mars, building buildings, sending out rovers to collect treasures and resources and upgrade your technologies. It plays very similar to most of the Euro games that I have described, except it has a lot more interaction between players. Typically when you play a Euro game, it very often can feel like you are all playing your own little individual solitaire game, and then we see who played the best solo game at the end. But On Mars actually has a lot more player interaction because you can use each other's technologies, you can build advanced buildings on tiles that other people have laid down, so we're all kind of helping each other. So yes, it is a competition, but it is a competition that gets better because we have all worked together to change the surface of this planet. The other thing that makes this game unique is the fact that there are two different sides of the board. You have the side where you actually are on the surface of Mars, and then the side when you are in orbit around the planet in like a space station. The Mars surface is definitely more focused on the building and the exploration, and then the orbit side is more focused on resource gathering, technology upgrades, and planning and research type things. And you can only take actions that are on the side of the board that your little astronaut piece is on. So there is a really interesting like timing mechanism that goes into it. So we played this at 4 players, which I believe is the most people that can play this game. And we played the long game. You have the option to play a short or long game depending on what cards you select for the game's built-in countdown timer. I would not recommend playing a 4-player long game with people that have never played this game before. That was a mistake. And I honestly don't know if I would recommend playing a 4-player long game at all unless you really, really, really love this game, because it took us 5 hours to get through the entire thing. And I'm not just talking about like, oh, it was like 5 hours and teaching was included in there. It was 5 hours of gameplay. It was almost the entire first day of the con for us. So I still really love this game. It's just very intense, and you really gotta know what you're in for getting yourself into playing it. So I would definitely recommend it if you like heavy Euro games, or if you have a lot of experience with Euro games and you're looking for a challenge. I would not recommend this if you are brand new to board games. I would recommend you play some other games, get yourself used to the way board game mechanics work, and then pick up on Mars. We did play another shorter game towards the end of the day on our first day of the con, and that was Bargain Quest, which I think I've talked about on this channel before, but basically this is a sort of card drafting adventure game where you are playing as shopkeepers that are trying to get adventurers to come into your shops and buy gear from you so that they can go out and battle monsters with your gear and win renown. And I have this thing where like I always want to play more as fantasy shopkeepers. Adventurers are always so overpowered and badass, and that's a lot of fun sometimes, but sometimes you just want to play as the person that like sells cool shit to people that then go and use it to stab giant spiders or sewer goblins or whatever. Another thing that I really love about this game is that the artwork is very diverse. There are a few different like hero classes. They're the typical fantasy classes like a mage or a fighter. They're all of different races, body shapes and sizes, different actual like hairstyles. Not everyone just has this very Eurocentric straight hair, and just that's something that I always hear people remark on. Like, I own this game, so it doesn't surprise me anymore when I open the box and I see that the artwork is very inclusive. But whenever people walk by, they're like, oh, the artwork really drew me in. And the game is a whole lot of fun. It is pretty luck-based, so if you like some things, if you like your board games with a little bit more strategy, this might not be the game for you. But if you just want to sit around and sit at a table with this can take up to 6 players, and we played with 5, and you just want to have a good time, you couldn't do wrong with Bargain Quest, really. I super enjoyed it. So on the second day of the convention, we played the game that I had come to play. If you've been watching this channel, you probably have heard me talk about Root before. It's actually Rubber Banded Shut, which is what this is here for. But Root is basically a game that is about a bunch of different woodland animal factions vying for control of this forest. Each faction plays differently, so it's considered to be an asymmetric game because the sort of turn order works the same way, but every faction gets to do completely different things. So in this game, I got to play as the Lizard Cultists, which was the one that I had been dying to play as. It's an expansion to the base game, and basically they win the game by by turning other players' pieces on the board into their own cultists and then sacrificing them and using them to like build these gardens. It's really interesting and really weird, and honestly, I can't say too much about strategy after only having played one game as the Lizard Cult, because I feel like that was a game that just was really teaching me the basics of how to play as that faction. I think I'd really need to play a second game to get a good grip on the strategy. The problem is that I would have to play a second game with at least 3 other people, because the Lizard Cult doesn't work very well at smaller player counts. So hopefully enough people are going to want to play this game again with me that I will find out. And then we played with the typical, the cats, the Eyrie, and the Woodland Alliance. The cats are kind of like the evil empire from Star Wars, in which they have this huge industrial machine and they're everywhere and they win by controlling a bunch of places. The Eyrie is basically the Star Wars Old Republic. They have a really long sort of convoluted decree that they have to resolve every turn, or else their government goes into turmoil and they lose a bunch of points and everything has to start from scratch. And then the Woodland Alliance plays kind of like a Robin Hood and the Merry Men scenario. So they go around fomenting sympathy in different areas of the forest, and they get to basically steal cards from other people, as like the various factions have defectors that go to join the rebellion and stuff like that. And I really, really love this game. It is always a joy to play. I always feel like I learn something new and I have a new and interesting experience. And then after that, we didn't have much time left, so we played an old favorite, Tiny Towns. Somebody else had actually brought their copy of this game, but we have it too, so I'm holding up my copy. And this is a sort of very light, fun little puzzle game where you are trying to basically build a little town tableau in front of you based off of different Tetris-shaped pieces that you build out of resources. There are a couple interesting like spatial puzzle rules that make this fun to play, and you have to basically balance building valuable buildings which take up a lot of space with, you know, not wanting to be stuck with a bunch of resources that you can't build at all with. You can play this as kind of a roll and write, where you draw a random card, it tells you what resource to draft, and then you can place it and choose to turn it into a building or not. We didn't do that. We played it where each person would go around, call out the resource they wanted, and everyone else had to draft the resource that they called. I think that that definitely worked better for a higher player count, but I've only ever played it with 2 before, and I think that it's just too easy to like screw over the other person in a 2-player game if you play it the call out way, so we just played it in the card drawing way. I did terribly at this. I think I scored a total of 9 points, but I had some really pretty buildings and I had a lot of fun playing it. So there's that. It also does play up to 6 people, so if you have a bigger group, this is definitely a fun game. I think it's a good game if you're new to board games, but if you also are, you know, very experienced with board games, I think you'll really enjoy it too. It's honestly just a real crowd pleaser, I think. And then the last game that I played this week, we played actually after the convention was over, and that was Paladins of the West Kingdom. You've probably seen me talk about the previous game in this, I guess, loose trilogy called Architects of the West Kingdom. You don't actually have to play them in any particular order. They're just releasing like thematically and artistically connected games in a trilogy, so to speak. So this is the second game in this trilogy, and it plays very different to Architects of the West Kingdom. Architects is basically a game that takes place where you are doing like a bunch of worker placement and action selection in order to advance work on this cathedral in town. Paladins of the West Kingdom takes that and zooms way out, so you have like a whole wide world of things that you are trying to accomplish. You can build fortifications, you can go out and fight invaders, you can convert invaders to your religion, you can send townspeople questing, you can bring them into your town. There's a whole bunch more things that you can do in this game. But at its heart, it does play pretty similarly in terms of the worker placement and action selection. There are just a few different mechanics. This game is definitely a little bit more motivated by card drafting because you won't always have the same different number of types of workers every round. Every round, people will draft the same number of workers, but in this case, the type of worker that you're drafting matters because you can only take certain actions if you can match that action's color with the worker's color. So it is a bit more complicated and complex, but if you've played Architects of the West Kingdom, you'll be really familiar with all of the symbology that this uses. If you've played any of the other games like the Raiders of the North Sea trilogy, you'll be pretty familiar with how this game works. It is a little bit more on the tedious setup side, so definitely like have it set up before you're ready to play because it does take a while to put down all of the little wooden pieces. But I did really enjoy this. I'm looking forward to playing it again. I think I'll have like more in-depth thoughts on it as I play it again, but just based off of a first impression, I thought it was really excellent. And those, my friends, are all of the board games that I played this week. Whew, I think I might just have to start doing this when I go to cons because it's way too much to, to fit all of the books and all of the board games into a single video, let alone making sure that that's all like edited and closed captioned and, you know, all of the other less glamorous parts of making booktube videos involved. So if you have made it this far into the video, please leave me a comment down below about a game that you have played and enjoyed recently. It can be a board game, a video game, card game, whatever you like. I would just really like to hear about what y'all are playing and having fun with. If you like this video and you want to see more of what I do, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. That is the best way to get notifications every time I post, which is pretty regularly. If these Geekly Wrap-Ups stay as long as they do, it's definitely going to be twice a week. As always, thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!